Welcome back to channel, where we delve into the deepest corners of relationships, uncovering tales of love, loss, and betrayal. Today's episode is a poignant reminder that even in the sanctity of home, hearts can shatter, and trust can crumble. Our story is titled, Shocking Betrayals, Cheating Spouses Exposed and Heartbreaking Tales. So, grab a tissue and prepare your heart for the emotional journey ahead. Hey folks, welcome back to my channel, Relationship Haven. In today's story, OP found out his wife cheated on him with a guy that is nothing like OP. The guy is broke, has a restraining order against him, and still lives with his parents at 42 years old. Now, she claims she wants to reconcile. In today's second story, OP found out his wife cheated on him with her adopted brother. Now, let's get into today's stories to find out what happened. I'm contemplating divorcing my wife of 16 years and mother to my 4-year-old son. In January, she revealed she had been having an emotional affair which began 6 months earlier. She had just broken things off. I was in shock hearing this. I thought we had had a loving relationship and a wonderful life together. Things weren't perfect, but overall there was a lot to be happy about. We both had rewarding careers, a child we completely adored, and a beautiful home. I saw us as best friends and there was no one I would have rather spent time with. However, it's fair to say that the degree of intimacy in our relationship waned several years prior to our son's birth, starting with a long bout of infertility and continuing after we conceived our son through IVF. Infertility and being a new parent took its toll. We struggled for 9 months raising a baby who suffered from severe colic. One time, our baby was screaming so loud that a neighbor called the police to do a welfare check. It was rough. The colic subsided, but bedtime still seemed never-ending. It was only very recently that our son moved out of our bedroom to start sleeping in his own room. I don't think the word exhaustion does justice to the feelings we've mutually experienced. In my mind, there were challenges of parenthood, ones we shared equally. When my wife expressed worry about the lack of intimacy in our life, I knew on the one hand that she was right, though I didn't know how to change things. On the other hand, it seemed like the demands of being a new parent offered a reasonable explanation. I also believed that intimacy was something that could or would ebb and flow, more the former in those early trying years. My wife didn't feel the same way. I think she saw our lack of intimacy as a failing in our relationship and was deeply unhappy about it, more so than she was willing to admit. Then she met her affair partner and was somehow awakened to the true depth of this void in her life. We started seeing a couples therapist in the fall. Unbeknownst to me, her affair was playing out in parallel. I felt a deep distrust after learning about my wife's emotional affair and small details nagged at me. Was this exclusively an emotional affair or did more happen? What was the extent of their relationship and how meaningful was it to her? Over the course of several months, I uncovered many details that weren't really volunteered, or rather, I was able to dig up information through my own investigative efforts. For example, data recovery, monitor emails, checking browser history and so on. With each new detail came a new revelation and I learned that much more had happened than I was first led to believe. My wife went out of town on 3 overnight trips during the past fall and winter. Each time I gave her my encouragement. She was leaving to work on writing projects or go snowshoeing with friends and I believed these were activities to be nourished. I stayed home and took care of our son. Later, I learned that she met up with her affair partner on every single trip. I learned that they had exchanged sexually explicit pictures and videos. Unfortunately, I saw some of this material too. I learned that they had sex on many occasions. They told each other, "I love you." At some point, they envisioned a future together, but needed to be patient while biding their time. However, in January, my wife decided to break it off with her affair partner. Things did not go well. She was on the receiving end of abusive and threatening text messages. My wife became very controlling with regard to her affair partner. I was urged to block his phone number and email address and Instagram account so that he could not try to contact me. I was made to feel that he was a mentally unstable individual, an unpredictable person that I and we should be afraid of. I started sleeping in my son's room, which is on the main floor. I wanted to be sure I would hear if he tried to break in. He would drive by in the middle of the night and throw bags of things on our lawn. The police were called. Unfortunately, that's not where things ended. We continued to go to therapy, which shifted its focus to the affair. However, my wife was unable and unwilling to completely sever contact with her affair partner. They continued to text. He bought her a Valentine's Day gift. She bought him a birthday present. They continued to see each other. They were still intimate with one another. One day, I slipped my phone into our car, turned the GPS on and watched her drive to his house and stay there for 2 hours. It's hard to grapple with all the things I've dealt with, and it's hard to reconcile how my wife could allow herself to be in such a toxic relationship. Her affair partner is the polar opposite of me. He's unstable, broke and lives with his parents. He's 42 years old. His ex-partner has a protection order against him, and he has only limited and supervised access to his own children. I don't know what to say. I loved my wife. I love our family. This is not what I wanted. OP, here are my thoughts on the situation. You are aware of what has happened. You need to gather evidence and talk with a lawyer about your options. You do realize that as your wayward wife continues this facade, you're putting your own child's safety and well-being at risk. She's checked out of this marriage, which you're hanging on to and using lies, deception and gaslighting as a way to keep you as a doormat. Check your state laws as to reasons for divorce. If you live in a no-fault state, it may make things harder for you. If you do seek legal advice, have any visitation on the part of the wayward wife, stipulate no visitors of the opposite sex while having visitation, since you already know the affair partner is mentally unstable. Let's see what the comments had to say about this situation. Kranich said, I know that you deeply love your wife and I'm very sorry that you're in this situation, but you are no longer just together with her. You are responsible for your son now as well, for his mental and physical well-being. Where do you think your son will be when your wife wants to see her affair partner while she has to look after your son because you're at work or somewhere else? She needs to learn that she destroyed the bond you once had, that all trust and respect is lost. Not that you have to fight for her. She walked out. She betrayed you. If she wants this marriage to survive, then she has to fight, not you. It is your job to show her that you no longer tolerate her affair, her disrespect and her selfish, entitled behavior. Build up a bed in your son's room and sleep there. Ignore her presence at home unless it is about the kid. Stop going to marriage counseling. That is good for nothing for as long as she lies. Tell her that you will not even shake her hands before she meets with a doctor and gets tested for STDs now and in 3 months. Then do the most important step. Go to a lawyer, prepare the divorce papers and serve her with divorce papers. Now let's get into today's second story. This is my first time posting, so please bear with me. This happened to me just a couple of days ago. Let me provide some background. I've been with my girlfriend for 1 year. She has 2 kids of her own. I myself have 1. Our story starts way back in 8th grade. She was my first love. I moved to Los Angeles, which led to us separating, and of course people move on. Throughout the years we kept in touch here and there. I always knew I loved her and would from time to time think about her. Last October I reached out to her and we began to reconnect. Shortly after we started dating. Last May we discovered she was pregnant. She is now 5 months along. Now to the present day. We now live together and have been preparing for the baby's arrival. Things had seemed to be going pretty well for the most part, but for the past couple of weeks I had noticed her acting very strange, especially in regard to her iPad, which is connected to her phone. So all photos, texts and calls are registered to it as a result of having it synced. She's a hairstylist, so she would leave it at work in her locker or in her car. About a week ago she asked me to watch the kids while she went out to work for a couple of hours. While at home I heard her iPad going off, so I went ahead and checked to see what it was. The messages she received were from her older adopted brother. He was adopted at a very early age by her father before she was even born, from my understanding. The messages began neutral, nothing out of the ordinary, until the really awful stuff started to show. The messages led into lots of sexting and nudes being sent from her to him. They also planned days to meet up when she wouldn't have the kids with her so that they could have sex. However, this is where it gets confusing. Throughout the text messages she made excuses as to why she couldn't have sex, but could only hang out, even though she was clearly scheduling days to see him. A few hours later she arrived home and I confronted her about the entire thing. Her response was that he took advantage of her a couple of years back while she was drunk, and from there it started to become a common consensual occurrence. She eventually put a stop to it, but recently it had started back up, and she had been trying to get him to stop pursuing her by sexting him and cutting it short because she didn't want to lose her brother. She also stressed that they haven't had sex recently, she just saw him 2 weeks ago. It all sounded like bullshit to me, so I packed up and left. I'm shocked, and now I've had doubts that the baby is even mine, because I can't believe anything she says. A part of me wants to understand and even go back to her for the baby's sake. I don't know what to do at this point. I'd appreciate any advice. OP, here are my thoughts on the situation. You need to get a paternity test ASAP and then also let her parents know what happened so she doesn't go around spinning the narrative. You also need to contact a lawyer and get an STD test. I wish you the best of luck with your situation, OP. Thanks for taking the time to listen to today's stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and comment below on what your thoughts are on today's stories. If there's a story you'd like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me. Take care, everyone. Remember to subscribe to Heartstrings and Home for more captivating tales of love, loss, and redemption. Until next time, may your home be filled. Hello everyone. Today, I have a story that's bound to leave you speechless. It's a tale of manipulation, heartbreak, and ultimately, poetic justice. Buckle up as I share how my evil mother-in-law tried to ruin my marriage, but karma had other plans. Welcome to the story of my evil mother-in-law ruined my marriage, but karma struck back harder than ever. Let's dive in. But don't worry, justice was served and my evil mother-in-law Nessa did get her karma in the end. To start my story, I must mention that I met my husband Logan in college. We were both studying abroad and I had no idea how horrible his mom truly was. From what I had heard from Logan, I only had admiration for the woman. Nessa was a single mom to Logan since his dad died when he was a teenager. It was a rather tragic situation. While coming home from a dad-son trip, their car crashed and only Logan survived it. His father was alive for a very short while and passed away 2 days after the incident. Logan had moderate physical wounds but his mental trauma was something that just wouldn't go away. Logan had always talked about how he was grateful to have his mom step in and take care of him. Nessa was a fighter and raised a fine young man. So I only had positive thoughts about Nessa until I actually met her. This is how our first meeting went. Nessa, I'm so happy to meet you. I was actually looking forward to getting to know you because of the stories Logan told me. You truly are a remarkable woman. That I am, Zoe. I'm glad you could see that early on. I'm not someone to be messed with. I did have to suffer a lot raising Logan alone. Yes, you have truly raised a fine young man. Logan has landed such a great job and is so good at taking care of others. He loves you a lot, you know. He has achieved so much to make you happy. I hope you're proud of him. Why should I be proud of him? Logan has only done the bare minimum. I deserve that after losing my husband due to his stupidity. I swear Logan had gone rock beside me. I was seriously taken aback by Nessa's words as well. I had no idea how to react to that. What Nessa said was nothing short of mean and horrible. I said, what do you mean, Nessa? It's very unfortunate that your husband died in an accident, but what does Logan have to do with it? Oh, well, he had everything to do with it. If Logan had not insisted on leaving me alone and going on a dad-son trip, my husband would still be alive. It is because of him that I lost my dear husband. Am I right, Logan? Yes, you're right, Mom. I really shouldn't have insisted on that trip. I'm sorry, Mom. Did you see that, Zoe? Even Logan accepts his mistake. That is one of the reasons why he is so close to me. I am his responsibility now. Let me warn you, Zoe, Logan will always put me before you. He will always remember his duty to me. Guys, the dinner was an eye-opener for me. I sat there in shock while Logan kept his head down and just took the blame for his father's death. Nessa had a gala time blaming him and reminding him how she should always be his priority. I stayed with Nessa for 2 days and what I heard broke my heart. Nessa actively blamed Logan and has been doing it his entire life. That way she kept him under her thumb and made him fund her life. It was just bizarre and I felt bad for Logan. One night I sat him down and tried to make him understand how wrong Nessa was. I said, Logan, you shouldn't listen to your mother. She's just trying to control you by shifting the blame for the accident on you. This is not okay. Zoe, Mom's right. In a way I am responsible for Dad's passing. I've already accepted it. You don't have to feel sorry for me. Logan, you are crazy. You need to seriously get some distance from your mom and analyze her ways. She's emotionally manipulating you and taking advantage of you. Look, Zoe, even if you're right, what can I do? I need to take care of her. She's the only one I have left. Before my dad died I had promised him that I would do everything to help my mom. I can't back down on that promise. It's true that I took Dad away from her. I want to make up for that mistake. It's my duty. I tried my best to make Logan understand what a snake his mom was. But he would never listen to me. Nessa made good use of his fresh trauma and manipulated him into thinking that he owed Nessa everything in his life. Nessa was taking full advantage of that. My good opinion about her was already in shambles and I started to hate her. Nessa wasn't stupid. She knew that I would try to make Logan see the truth about her. So she constantly created trouble between me and Logan. Despite everything, I married Logan because he was an amazing man. I knew that his love for me was true. I also knew that I couldn't just walk away from him knowing how vulnerable he was. We got married and soon Logan purchased an expensive mansion for us. Guess who showed up right after we moved in? Yes, it was Nessa. One day she just showed up with her stuff and declared that she would stay with us. Why, you may ask? Of course, because she deserves it for losing her husband due to Logan's fault. I swear even typing this out makes me want to knock her out. You could only imagine my anger when she sat in front of me and berated Logan for not inviting her sooner. Logan, of course, gave in and allowed her to stay. He was already shouldering her expenses and paying her rent, so it was nothing new for her. But it turned out to be a nightmare for me. Nessa made my life a living hell. She started to manipulate Logan into thinking that I was a gold digger who didn't want him to take care of her. Yes, I didn't want Logan to shoulder all of Nessa's expenses because she was a toxic manipulator and abuser. I don't know why she thought I was a gold digger because I contributed to the household and had a job, albeit not as good as Logan. Anyway, after a year of fights and screaming matches, I have had enough and left the house. I moved into a friend's empty apartment and gave Logan an ultimatum. I said, "Listen to me, Logan, I can't live with your mom like this. We have been taking all her responsibilities and she is still running around abusing us. Hell, she had moved on to trying to break us up. I can't take this anymore. You refuse to punish her or do anything about this situation. Zoe, what can I do? You know I can't speak against my mom. I'm the reason she's alone and without a partner. I don't have the place to tell her off. I'm so sorry, Zoe, I want to support you but I don't know how. Listen to me, Logan, you have to see past your mom's manipulating tactics and take a stand for us. This can't continue. I won't go back to that house while she's there. If you think you can't do anything, then it's best we get a divorce." I was honestly tired of Nessa and at the end of my wit, so it was natural for me to consider divorce. I didn't want to be with someone who wouldn't stand up for me, but Logan wasn't willing to let me go. He immediately panicked and started to beg. He said, "Zoe, I can't evict my mom from the house. I promised my father that I'd take care of her. I won't be able to make her homeless or kick her out, but I will buy a new house, Zoe. I'll sell whatever I own and buy a house for you." No, I don't think that would be a good idea. As much as I want to get away from your mother, I also don't want to financially cripple you. Fine then, you can. I'll pay the down payment and take a mortgage. I promise I'll get you away from my mother. If I leave her the house, she will at least create less problems in our life. I'll slowly cut her off, Zoe. I promise you that I will make sure you never face this situation again. Logan literally begged me to give him a chance. I won't lie to you guys, but I did feel hesitant to accept his request. I did love him a lot, but I was doubtful that his mom would leave us alone. However, after a lot of careful consideration, I decided to give him a chance. But things would be different for us. It was hard to start a new life with Logan. Nessa threw a fit when he talked about moving out. Thankfully, Logan pacified her by saying the house would be hers and she wouldn't have to leave her favorite place. Also, Logan promised to send her an allowance every month so that she wouldn't have to fend for herself. While this was going on, I continued to stay apart from my husband. I wanted to see his resolve and only waited till he had purchased a house and started the mortgage payments. He was the one who set everything up, so I knew he was serious. 2 months after the house purchase, I moved back in with Logan. Nessa threw a fit and tried to cause problems. She stormed into our new house and said, "Why the hell is that witch back with you, Logan? I thought we had gotten rid of her for good. You don't need a gold digger in your life like that. Look at this, Logan. She even made you buy a new house. Mom, you have no right to say what I do with my own marriage. You wanted Zoe gone, but I didn't. We have decided to mend our relationship and marriage. You should be happy for us." Why the hell would I be happy, Logan? First, Zoe tried to kick me out of your house and now she made you buy her a new house. She's just proving me right in thinking that she is a gold digger. Why would you still want that in your life? Mom, I love Zoe. Buying a new place was solely my decision. Zoe had nothing to do with it. You are not a saint either, Mom. You did create a host of problems for Zoe too. So far, I have never stood up against you, but you are taking things too far. Don't make me regret supporting you, Mom. My dear mother-in-law turned pale when Logan talked to her like that. She had never expected Logan to stand up for me like that. I know that to most people it is nothing remarkable, but to me it was. I knew how much strength it took Logan to stand up to his mom. Nessa, of course, cried and lamented about how he was treating her very cruelly. It was a complete drama and I wisely kept my mouth shut. I didn't want to interfere and somehow give Nessa the chance to make me the bad guy again. Plus, I didn't even have to say anything. Logan continued to covertly threaten Nessa about cutting off her monthly allowance if she continued to cause problems. That shut her up eventually, but Nessa's words also gave me some food for thought. When Nessa was gone, Logan started to apologize to me again for his mom's words. He was worried that I would bolt after this small incident. He was really caught between a rock and a hard place. It honestly made me feel very sad for him. It was then that I decided that we needed some more changes. I said, "Logan, I really appreciate how you stood up for me today. I know it's not enough and a little late, but I appreciate it anyway. I will do that again if Mom tries to create problems, Zoe. Please don't leave me again. I swear I will make things right." Logan, I'm not leaving for now, but we would need a little more change after today's incident. It has got me thinking about certain stuff and what more needs to be done. Logan immediately jumped to hear my suggestions. It warmed my heart to know that he was willing to do what it takes to make us happy. That's how I got the confidence to proceed with my suggestions. I said, "First of all, I think we need to see a therapist. We need both individual therapy and couples therapy. It will help us fix our relationship better and make you unlearn that shit that Nessa has been teaching you since your childhood. Absolutely, Zoe. I've been thinking about the same thing. It's difficult for me to stand up to my mom due to my childhood. Mom really made sure I always felt guilty about standing up to her. Only therapy can help me in this regard. What else do you have in mind? I would like to start paying the mortgage on this house. What? No, no, no. I decided to buy a new house. I need to prove to you that I am committed to us, Zoe. You already proved to me that you are committed to making this marriage work. But I need the world to know that I am not a gold digger. For that, I need to have an equal contribution to this house. You already made the down payment, so I will take over the mortgage payment. Eventually, we will put both our names on this house. Logan did protest a lot when I suggested this. He was adamant that he would pay for the whole house. Hell, he even suggested I put my name on the deed without paying anything. But I strongly disagreed with that. I knew that if I had taken up his offer, his mother would be proven right. She would have convinced everyone that I am after Logan's money, which I am definitely not. The best course of action was for me to pay the mortgage and eventually have my name added to the house. After a lot of discussion, I convinced Logan to do what I had planned. From the next month onward, I started the mortgage payments on the house. 2 years passed and things were great between me and Logan. In our new house, we were able to have a happy married life away from Nessa. She did try to meddle and cause problems, but Logan put her back in her place every time. Therapy helped a lot and Logan was able to let go of the guilt that his mother had instilled in him. The two of us were very happy and Nessa was a distant problem from our past. But everything came crashing down when Logan was diagnosed with a rare disease. The diagnosis came late and there was very little we could do to help him. He was given 4 months to live. It is difficult for me to describe what the diagnosis did to me. It is even more difficult to explain my mental condition when he passed away just 3 months into the diagnosis. What I can say is that I was able to make the most of what little time I had left with Logan. Thankfully, Nessa didn't interfere much, or rather Logan didn't allow her to. But when he was gone, Nessa didn't stop the venom spilling out. Just 2 days after Logan's death, she strolled into my house like she owned it. I was angry and said, "What the hell are you doing here, Nessa? I told you to stay away. Why would I listen to you, Zoe? This house will soon be mine anyway. I've just come to see it before I take full ownership of the place." "You are freaking crazy, Nessa. This house is mine. There is no way in hell that I would let you take it from me." "Oh darling, this house was Logan's till he died. I know that you guys never ended up adding your name to the deed. Before he died, Logan had promised me that I would receive this house in his will." Nessa's words made me panic instantly. She was right about the house. As the years passed, we didn't have the chance to put my name on the deed. It was actually still completely in Logan's name. Now Nessa was saying that Logan had promised her the house. I had a hard time believing that Logan had betrayed me so cruelly, but until the will was read, there was no way to tell. On the day of Logan's funeral, things were tense between me and Nessa. We were both pretty sad, although Nessa made a big show of crying every time someone came near her. How did I know? Well, she actually smirked at me when people left me to comfort her. It was starting to get on my nerves, especially because I really wanted to grieve my late husband in peace. I didn't want to make that day about me, so I kept my mouth shut and avoided any confrontations. The real drama started when me and Nessa were called by Logan's lawyer to read the will. When the will was finally read, I discovered to my great horror that Logan had indeed named Nessa as the new owner of the new house. I was honestly in shock while Nessa laughed in my face and kept saying how Logan would always put her above me. The lawyer sort of gave her the stink eye to keep her quiet while he read the next part of the will. While I couldn't understand why Logan would give Nessa a house that I was paying for, the lawyer read the rest of Logan's will. Nessa didn't pay attention to it because she was busy laughing at me, but I knew what my dear husband had done when the entire will was read. I smiled a little at Nessa when the lawyer said, "So, as you can see, the smaller house that was purchased recently will go to Mrs. Nessa here." Oh God, my son does love me a lot, doesn't he? He left me 2 freaking houses while his gold digger wife didn't get anything. I'm not sure you understand the will correctly, Mom. Maybe instead of laughing at your daughter-in-law, you should have paid more attention to the last part of the will. What? What are you talking about? Well, let me put these simple words for you, Mom. The bigger house that you're living in right now is going to Zoe and the smaller house with an active mortgage is going to you. This means you will have to empty your existing place and take on the mortgage at the smaller house. Nessa's face completely changed when she realized what Logan had done. Her precious son hadn't left her everything in his will. Instead, he had left her a small house with an outstanding mortgage that she would have to shoulder. I, his wife, ended up inheriting the bigger house from which Nessa had forcefully made me move. It was the last bit of revenge that my dear husband took on my behalf. Nessa was in complete shock. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. She said, "Excuse me? What are you even talking about? That can't be true. My son would never do that to me. You are lying. This is some sort of a scheme against me. You are accusing me of being unprofessional, Mom? That is a serious allegation that I won't entertain. I will provide you with a copy of the will so that you can cross-check the facts. Oh, hell yes. I am going to take a copy and see for myself. The lawyer looked pretty ticked off as he handed us both the will. True to his words, the will stated what the lawyer had already told us. My husband hadn't betrayed me. He actually screwed Nessa over as a last act of revenge. I knew he did it for both me and him. He was finally able to teach Nessa a lesson. Seeing Nessa's face, I could tell that she wasn't pleased. She started to cry and yell at both me and the lawyer. It was just bizarre the way she was behaving. Even the lawyer looked like he was at the end of his wits. Nessa kept saying, "This is bullshit. This can't happen. Someone has sabotaged this will. This will is 100% genuine, Mom. Mr. Logan had himself drawn it up a month before he died. And this will is rock solid. I will contest this will. I won't let Zoe take what's rightfully mine. I will sue you, Zoe." "Go right ahead, Nessa. Your son has made sure that the will is ironclad. You can't do anything about it. If you want to contest, you will have to use your own money. By the way, I hope you realize your allowance will stop from next month." Nessa looked at me in panic when I said that. She hadn't thought about that either. She was so used to having Logan take care of her that she didn't even plan what would happen when he wasn't around. I guess she had really thought that Logan would leave her everything in his will. So my little warning sparked some doubts in her. She said, "No, no, no, that can't be possible. I'm entitled to an allowance, right?" "I didn't think so, ma'am. Since there is no clause about an allowance, it means you are not entitled to any. Besides, the will clearly says that all monetary possessions of my late client will go to his wife. So any allowance you get will depend on your daughter-in-law. If you think I will give you any money, you need to think again, Nessa. That will never happen. So don't even bother asking me." "No, no, this can't be happening." Nessa sank to the floor crying like a banshee. The lawyer and I ignored her to carry on our own conversation. She remained on the floor crying and cursing me out while I casually strolled out of the funeral home after I was done. Nessa had her karma served to her and it was now time to face the music. As the days passed, Nessa desperately tried to go against the will. She spent the last bits of her money trying to find a lawyer who would contest the will. Well, to no one's surprise, everyone refused. While she was busy doing this, I had served her an eviction notice. The house she lived in was mine now anyway. As the month was up, she tried to beg me to let her stay there. She even tried to use her crocodile tears to make me give her money. I closed the door on her face, of course. I was living with a friend and moved into the big house where Nessa was forced to move out. She moved into the small house and was stuck paying the mortgage. Since she had no money of her own and no job, she had to ultimately sell the house. The sale needed to be quick, so Nessa lost out on a lot of money. Not to mention the fact that the house wasn't even paid off completely. All in all, she only got enough money to support her for a year. I was there in my new house watching her every move. I saw her destruction with my own eyes. My stupid mother-in-law didn't even last a year with that money. Her terrible financial decisions made her homeless and penniless well within 8 months. Nessa did come back to beg me for help again. She tried to emotionally manipulate me by saying that her son would have wanted me to help her. I laughed in her face and told her son already made his intentions clear. She didn't like that one bit. This time she couldn't even form a retort because she was down on her luck. Karma is truly an amazing thing. I saw her last week when I was out grocery shopping. She works at the cash counter now. She pretended not to know me. It was well and good with me. I didn't even feel sorry for her. I heard she's renting a place with 5 people now. All I can say is that she deserves it. As for me, I'm content being single in a big house and with the beautiful memories of my husband. If this story touched your heart, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with others who might need to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new story. We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more greetings, my dear viewers. Today, I invite you to delve into a tale of love shattered by betrayal, trust eroded by deception, and hearts torn asunder by infidelity. Join me as we explore the harrowing journey of a husband who uncovers his wife's unfaithfulness and the painful aftermath that follows. Welcome to Caught My Wife Cheating, Unraveling the Betrayal, a story of deception and heartbreak. She all but stopped messaging me during the day. And when she did, right, it was short things about dinner or other trivial items. She started going grocery shopping alone, needed her time. This is something we used to do together. She has always gone running after work and on weekends, but now with it getting too dark and cold, her running on the weekends have turned into 3 to 4 hour events. She moved out onto the couch saying I moved around too much and she couldn't sleep. The couch then became the guest bedroom. That's when I finally confronted her. She said that she was texting the other man because he had been open about his mental health issues. She has struggled with anxiety and depression for a while, but we had it under better control with counseling and medication. She even initially told me she was going to talk to him, and because I knew him, he goes to our church and is our insurance guy. I foolishly thought that would be okay. On November 14th, I asked her if she still loved me and she said yes, but she hasn't been happy for quite a while and it's been a difficult year and she wasn't sure if she wanted to work on the marriage or not. I told her that I noticed that she hit her phone. Anytime I came into the room, that's when she told me who the other man was. She said that they texted and met sometimes for lunch, but he was just a friend. She said it over and over. As I asked questions about him, I got angry and incredibly sad at the same time and told her that it ceased being just friends when she felt like she had to hide it from me. I asked if she talked about me to him. She said she did. I told her that her affair hurt almost as bad as if she had slept with him. Over the next few days, I just could not shake the feeling that there was more going on than she told me. It's difficult because she says she doesn't want to work on the marriage. I looked at phone records and they call each other first thing in the morning. And during most lunches, then again, as soon as she gets off work, the phone call started on October 10th. So at least a month, she doesn't text him because they use Signal and I don't have access to her phone. Plus it deletes the messages as soon as you send them. Anyway, I talked to her again on Sunday and she said that they only talk and hug. I don't believe her. Maybe it's because of the lies and the broken trust, but I just feel like more is going on than she is telling me. She's currently in the process of finding a new place to live. She was going to wait until January, but I told her last night that I wouldn't be her plan B and that if she was waiting to move out to spare my feelings, to not worry about that. She put a deposit on a place today during her lunch hour. In Virginia, we must be separated for 6 months before we can divorce. As soon as she moves into her new place, that will start the separation time. I've left messages with a couple of divorce attorneys this week, but because of the holiday, they are slow getting back to me. I think I want to split amicably if possible, but I also want to know how far she has taken it. I feel this need to know if it was just an emotional affair or if it was a physical affair. Does it really matter though? Do I push it where she doesn't want to work on our marriage or just let her go and move on with my life? We've been married for 18 years and luckily have no children. I just feel so lost right now, lightheaded and in a fog. I appreciate any advice. Second story is called, Caught My Wife Cheating, found out 2 months ago. I've been lurking on this site for a month now and finally decided to post. Short story is that my wife and I have been married since 1994. And I found out about 2 months ago that she has been engaged in a physical affair with a friend of ours for about 6 months. We are both in our mid to late 40s, both in decent shape. And we have a son who has grown and on his own. I will start off by saying that I have not been happy in my marriage for a good 15 years or so. Around 2005, she had an affair with a coworker. I was devastated. I busted her. She did all the crying and hemming and hawing, promising never to cheat again. I kicked her out for a couple of months. And we went to a crappy marriage counselor who basically blamed me for all her bad choices, thinking I was at fault for it all. I sucked it up and we went on and basically buried the whole thing. She was relieved and seemed happy with me, but I kept my mouth shut and just lived with it because I thought that is what a man was supposed to do. Looking back, that year was the year my soul started dying. Now I am relieved, almost ecstatic. You all do not need to console me because I am not in pain. If anything, I am happy because now I can divorce my cheater and get out of this fake marriage without having to feel like the bad guy or that I am in the wrong. She has given me the reason I have needed for 15 years to finally escape without my friends and family, making me out to be the villain. I can say with confidence that I have been a good husband to her all these years. Am I without any faults? No, of course not, but I have never done anything over the past 15 years to warrant this treatment. She knows full well that if she were caught again, then that would be it. Which leads me to believe this is an exit affair on her part. And she wants me to bust her. That is the feeling I get. Maybe I am wrong, but I have a hard time thinking she is that stupid to cheat again after what we went through before and expect me to forgive her again. So, over the past 2 months, I have gathered all the evidence I need to divorce her. I have not confronted her yet or had her served. I do want to eventually expose her to our friends and families in order to protect my own reputation. But I have some questions. 1. Should I wait until after the divorce is final to expose her to our families and the other guy's wife? If I expose now, word might get back to her employer and I don't want her getting fired. I made the stupid mistake of marrying and living in a state where alimony is mandatory. So, if she gets fired, then I'm on the hook. She makes more than me. If she doesn't lose her job, I could ask for alimony, but I won't. 2. How do I tell my son? He was just 6 when she cheated the first time. And even though he couldn't understand at the time, he saw what it did to us. And I think he was affected by our separation. He will be pissed at her, but I don't know any reason why I should lie to him. 3. Should I ask her to move out or try to keep things amicable until the divorce goes through and just live together? I want to keep the house, and in my divorce petition, I state that I will buy out her share of the equity for. I want to start dating again soon. Is there anyone here who went through a divorce where you live with your spouse, but dated other people, or is it best to wait? Third story, caught my wife cheating. She is bipolar. Iguis. I really could use some advice. My wife is bipolar and has suffered lots of abuse growing up, including abuse by a family member and abuse by her abuser ex-boyfriend who is in jail. I am a private investigator and task force agent. And I missed all the signs. Long story short, we met online as she was unconsciously seeking for a white knight experienced in helping abuse survivors and ended up falling for me within a month. And so did I. Due to COVID, our meeting in person got delayed for months. And after we married, I discovered she was an escort, sugar baby for 3 years. She started on it as to get back at her abusive boyfriend. And also because she was conditioned to be objectified since she was little. She basically stopped doing it around 4 months before we met in person. And we married 3 months after meeting many times. I was hurting because she disappeared. And now I know why she has cried, apologized, and says she feels lots of hate, shame, and disgust towards herself. I believe her. I went to the finish line and found all kinds of texts, emails, hard evidence on her emails, drives, and even some profiles. She had at some sugar baby sites. Oh boy. I regret seeing some things. She was very sloppy and hiding stuff. And once I got access to one email, the Pandora box opened. She is a student. And before I supported her financially, she had no income and no prospect of getting a proper job. The lies and the denial, the way she gets defensive is really tough on me. I offered her financial help before we met and she didn't accept it. So, as you can see, she is not after my money. Not that I have much. How do I avoid lashing out? Our relationship and arguments can get dicey in seconds as she is bipolar. And I'm what's known as quiet borderline personality disorder, in which I suffer all the pain and lash at myself, not at her. Not a great combo, but the love we have for each other is gigantic. It's been only 1 month since I found out and I already forgave her. But, at the same time, I have not forgiven myself over not seeing the red flags. Now, I feel I have to be extra vigilant with her. And she has agreed to disclose all her communications with me as I have. And we basically don't leave any room for anyone to be meddling in our relationship. I want to trust her again, especially since it happened before the relationship was real. But, for me, it felt real since day one. She says she only did it once or twice a month to finance her studies. But, I don't know, most days I believe in her good nature and other days, I worry a cheater is always a cheater. I also feel that because it happened before our first kiss, I am being a bit oversensitive, but, I was faithful for that whole year and I suffered intensely. Anytime I remember those days she disappeared, the pain comes back almost undiluted. It seems I'm on the final stages of grief. I've had a hard life and I get over stuff quick, but, I still feel traumatized and with a little PTSD. What's the best way to disengage? When our arguments start, they go from 0 to 1000 in 2 seconds. And then the blame game starts. When we are good is the best, but when we are arguing is hell, too intense, too much fire, and both of us get super hurt very quick if the other is not careful. If this story touched your heart, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with others who might need to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new story. We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, I have an incredibly shocking and nerve-wracking story for you. It's about trust, betrayal, and the lengths one man went to uncover the truth. Imagine discovering that the person you love most in the world might be hiding something so devastating that it could destroy your entire life together. Well, that's exactly what happened in today's story. So, sit back, relax, and prepare yourself for, I caught my wife's affair with the butler and it got worse when I fired him. 10 years into our marriage, I became very wealthy thanks to the percentage of ownership I had in my father's company. So, I bought my loyal and lovely wife a mansion for us to live in, which came with a butler who was prepared to take care of all the undesirable chores. My work schedule was pretty spontaneous because I could visit the office as I pleased or work from home. Our marriage and life together for the next 20 years after that were blissful other than some odd moments and occurrences. One day, I arrived home from work to find the butler with my wife, standing side by side doing dishes. She was drying, the easier part, but I didn't understand why she was willingly doing any of the chores and standing so close to him. Their elbows touched a few times, and I coughed to let them know I was there. My wife jumped, but he just moved away from her a little bit. She said she felt bad he was in here all by himself, so she wanted to keep him company and help a bit. She was so cheery and warm, I couldn't tell if she had any ill intentions. Another time, I came home to find her lounging in the pool with the butler gardening and staring at her. They laughed a few times before I came out to greet them. It was clear that they were at least friends, but I didn't like how friendly they were. I thought I was just being controlling and jealous, so I accepted that my wife was friends with and cared about the butler. What was the harm in that if I trusted my wife of 17ish years at this point? We spent every moment I wasn't busy together. I loved her, and I could tell she loved me. Yet another odd occurrence was when I walked upstairs to find the butler closing our bedroom door. It had been hours since I was upstairs because my wife was still sleeping. It was odd, and I asked him if she called for him. He jumped when I spoke and turned around sheepishly, although I could tell he wanted to act normal. He stammered and said she called to ask him for some water. I accepted that for a moment, but reminded him that he was not to enter our bedroom or open the door. He didn't know what to say besides, "Yes, sir." He walked away quickly, and I opened the door to find my wife in her panties drinking water. I asked her if the butler saw her like that, and she said no, she just took off her robe again. I was skeptical. I was heavily considering hiring a new butler. It seemed like she was flirty with him, at least, and I didn't like that he was most likely in our bedroom with my wife in her panties. Before I could terminate him, I saw him smelling my wife's panties. I know, it's really bad, really ballsy. I caught him on the security camera. I told him that was unacceptable and made my wife really uncomfortable. I didn't even tell her about it, but when I told him she was uncomfortable, he instantly looked like he didn't believe me. That ticked me off. I told him he was fired. I hired someone else, this time a female maid since I knew my wife was straight. I decided that even if I was jealous and protective, it was a smart decision. 1 week later, I arrived home to find the maid outside gardening. I went upstairs and found the butler I fired coming out of our bedroom once again, except this time he was dressed in regular, but still kind of formal, clothes. He looked at me like he was amused, but inconvenienced because I was there and saw him. I asked him what he was doing in my house again, and he told me my wife hired him for something else. He said it with such nerve, all I wanted to do was punch his smug face. I told him to leave and not to come back, no matter what my wife told him. As he walked away, I went into the bedroom and found my wife wearing a skimpy little nightgown. I asked her what was happening, and she looked nervous. She said I was home earlier today than the week before, and I told her she always knew my schedule was spontaneous and not to change the subject. She turned red and told me I was freaking out over nothing. I asked her why she couldn't explain why she was here in her skimpy nightgown after the butler I fired just came out of the room. She was pretty stunned and said she hired him back for things around the house the maid couldn't handle. I asked if one of those things was helping her with her personal plumbing and lubrication. Her jaw dropped, and she couldn't look me in the eye. Her cheeks must have been burning, they were so red. It looked like blood vessels in her face were showing up. It was crazy. Her face never turned that red in all the 30 years we were together. She finally said in a weak voice that if he did help her with that, it was nothing against me. I told her that it most definitely was against me because she belonged to me. We were life partners, and only I was permitted to help her with her plumbing and lubrication. She said she wouldn't ask him to help her again, and asked me not to worry about it anymore. I asked if that meant she was admitting to sleeping with him, and she was silent. She nodded yes very minimally, with her eyes watering. Then she started speaking really fast about how it didn't matter, she just considered it a job, nothing meaningful that would take away from our marriage, and she needed me to forget about it so that nothing changed between us. I told her this was most certainly going to change things between us, and it already took everything away from our marriage. I told her we were over, called her a name, and told her to get out of my home. I was extremely careful to get a post-nup signed after I came into more money. It's not that I didn't trust my wife at the time, it was because my father and I were lawyers, which means I couldn't ever be made the fool. So my wife sorrowfully packed her bags. She had too many bags for someone with nowhere to go. The butler came to pick her up in the car he afforded with the paychecks I gave him. They stayed in a motel where the butler had been staying after I fired him. My wife had so many belongings, clothes, that she had to leave some of it behind, which I immediately told the maid to sell on eBay, or keep for herself. They stayed in that motel as long as they could, but their money ran out without me signing the checks. They tried to contact me, individually, blaming each other for what occurred and asking me to take them back into the mansion. It was gratifying that they were turning on each other and failing to survive or do anything with their lives. Even to this day, my ex still tries to ask me for help and gives me some updated sob stories about where she is in life. It is not glamorous, it's far from what she was accustomed to with me. I've become something like Bruce Wayne in town, and I have no complaints. Even though her betrayal hurt, I knew from the moment I found out that I could recover from it. Not because of my money, but because I know what love is. And it wasn't that. OP, I am sorry your wife couldn't see what a great life she had with you. I honestly feel like the attention and sexual tension she experienced with the butler was too much for her immature brain to handle. It was a man in close proximity to her that she shouldn't sleep with, no matter how much he would have been willing. He obviously paid her attention, and when their friendship developed, she couldn't keep her legs closed. I believe she was egotistical and materialistic, and didn't have the respect she should for her providing and loyal husband. What this type of woman needs to understand is that resisting temptation pays off in the end. No man should be able to convince them to disrespect themselves and their spouses by breaking their vows and trust. I'm not sure what happened in your wife's head, but we are all here for you to offer support. Now let's get into our second story for today. One fateful day, when my wife went to work, she forgot her phone. I took the opportunity to check it, and was appalled by what I found. I should have known what was going on, because my wife, 25, was extremely excited about going to work suddenly. She said it was because she became in charge of a business task that she really enjoyed. It was something like designing different abstract images each day for a newsletter. I, 28, believed her. She was a good girl, and I was proud of her for earning us additional income for living expenses. The only other dead giveaway was that she didn't want to have sex as often, but then I knew why. It was because she was sexting with a coworker, sending pictures, and talking about the sex they had. It was disgusting. I drove to her work immediately. I backed up all the stuff for her phone, because although she wasn't getting it back, it was going to be deactivated. I brought it with me, and started by showing the receptionist, who I only met once before. Then I asked her if I could get a guest pass to go have lunch with my wife. She giggled and gave me one. She knew I was sarcastically infuriated, and this was going to be a heck of a show. She followed me in, putting up a "be back in 5 minutes" sign that she scribbled out. Everyone looked up from their desks to see me. I must have looked determined and angry. I asked everyone to gather around, and they did. I said I had some news to share about somewhere they all knew well. They were all sparkly-eyed with gossip endorphins when they found out who I was talking about. People started looking around for AP and my wife. AP came out of the bathroom just then, and we all looked at him. I announced that there was a guy who had the audacity to sleep with my wife. Some of the coworkers started shouting out insults at him. Among these, he was called despicable. Just then, my wife's head peeked out of her office. When she saw everyone looking at her, she went back inside and shut the door. Now everyone knew what my wife and AP looked like naked. Some girls whispered that they knew something was going on between them. Coworkers took the time to print/draw signs that said slanderous insults and taped them on my wife's office door. I thanked them for their creativity and left, wondering where the boss was that allowed all this to happen. When my wife got back to the house, I already had the locks changed. She took the stuff I let her have to AP's house. They both quit their jobs that day and walked out shamefully. In our town, there was just one major employer for like half the population. So when I shared with people the things my wife talked about and took pictures of, everyone in the area knew about it or saw it. It didn't take long for them to decide to move about 500 miles west. I couldn't have asked for a better outcome. Since she moved out of state, our divorce was made final through the mail. She didn't ask me for anything, thank God, but I would have been able to prove her infidelity anyway. She was done with me and the embarrassing past she was trying to forget. I felt the same way about her and couldn't be happier with the choice I made. OP, I am sorry your wife behaved like an untrustworthy office cheater. It's hard to get as low as a person who cheats on their spouse while utilizing their trust to earn income for the family. What are they even working for if not to improve the life they have at home? If they honestly believe the person they start an affair with at work or anywhere is better than the spouse they have at home, they're wrong. The grass may seem greener on the other side. Finding a person with a new set of features, issues, habits, goals, and interests is completely unnecessary. It is only a shame when a marriage or union ends because one spouse thought they found better in someone else or just thought they could effortlessly manage two serious relationships. Really, the only grounds for divorce, the proper way to end a marriage, is when one person absolutely cannot or will not honestly communicate with the other person. Thank you for sharing this story. I appreciate your bravery and bold confrontation. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. Take care. If this story touched your heart, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with others who might need to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new story. We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel where we dive deep into the intricacies of relationships and the lessons we learn along the way. Today, I have a story that explores the themes of trust, doubt, and the consequences of testing love. It's titled, I Tested My Girlfriend's Love by Pretending to Be Bankrupt, and She Disappeared. So, grab a seat, get comfortable, and let's explore this emotional roller coaster together. Al looked at Tori, who deftly took the roll with the stick and put it in her mouth. She acted as if she had been going to restaurants since childhood, although she lived in a small apartment and worked as an accountant. Tori looked great. It seems that she has rich parents who constantly pamper their daughter, and she doesn't get out of the spa. The girl licked her lips and smiled at him. Al met Tori at the gym. He came to run on the treadmill, and Tori was engaged in walking. A conversation began between them. She turned out to be a very interesting and quick-witted girl, so the young man's head quickly went around. Al was fascinated by her sincerity and spontaneity. But then, relatives and friends began to give advice to the guy. Al's mother said that he chose a girl for himself from the category of those who only need money from a man. His mother reproachfully expressed, his father supported her with a displeased expression on his face. Al tried to think differently. He was fine with Tori. He didn't believe that she was a windy girl or a liar. But those around him stubbornly imposed a completely different opinion on him. Therefore, condemnation settled in his soul like a heavy stone, no matter how much he wanted to get rid of them. But Al increasingly began to notice the fact that he began to treat Tori differently than before. He constantly tried to find a catch in her behavior. He wanted to understand if she was really interested in him, or if she only needed his money. And one day, he decided to talk to Andrew, his good old buddy, about Tori and his parents' relationship with her. Andrew said, Tori is a 100% hunter for wealth. Don't you yourself understand this? Do you think she earns money as an accountant for all this beauty? Al swallowed hard. Do all girls look beautiful only thanks to beauty salons? If a girl is well-groomed, then she is necessarily a hunter for wealth? He had many thoughts in his head, and each thought gave birth to a new doubt inside. Andrew spoke with a sly smile. And you check her out. Give her some expensive jewelry. If she agrees and accepts the gift, then she is definitely the same hunter. Al decided to try. Before that, he gave Tori only flowers and invited her on a date. And now he decided to buy her a gold chain with an emerald pendant, which would perfectly match the color of her eyes. When he presented the gift, Tori didn't refuse. She calmly accepted the chain and said that she had not been given such expensive gifts before, and she was very pleased. Al didn't understand anything at all. How should he perceive her behavior now? She's actually a hunter for wealth. Or an honest adult who doesn't want to waste her time needlessly rejecting gifts and bickering, just because pretty much everyone does it out of sheer shyness. He had even more questions, and Al didn't know how to find out exactly what Tori wanted. The man was embarrassed to directly invite her to draw up a marriage contract. He believed that he should share everything with his wife, at least in half. If not, give her everything, because she would support him and keep the house comfortable, because she would bear him children in the future, because she simply exists and that she chose him, although there are a lot of men around. His father sat at a family dinner noticing his son's condition. Al didn't quite understand him. What? His father advised. Pretend to be bankrupt. It's simple. Tell her you've lost everything, and live for a few days in a rented apartment. Take public transport, and see if your beauty girl stays with you or runs away from you. Al liked his father's proposal. The thought was actually correct. This way, he would be able to make sure that Tori loves him. Otherwise, he didn't want to think about another scenario, but at least he would not make the most serious mistake in his life if the girl disappeared. He would not marry the girl who needed only his finances. And now, as they sat in the Japanese restaurant, Al looked at Tori and prepared to tell her the lies he'd come up with overnight. But his tongue didn't want to turn. Al started. Tori, something happened to me. And he paused, noticing her worried look. This is probably the last time we have dinner at a restaurant. Tori was surprised. Why? You say that like you want to leave me. Al said with difficulty. No, they blocked all my accounts. Here's what's left of my cash. My apartment was also sealed, and my business is on the verge of bankruptcy. A bunch of checks from the tax and other nonsense. I'm not sure that I can afford all this, even if I return to work as a simple financer. Tori forced a smile and lowered her head. At that moment, something inside Al broke off. It seemed to him that he said goodbye to the woman whom he considered the best in the world. Tori didn't say anything else. And when Al saw her off, she just kissed him sparingly on the cheek and left. It's been 3 days, and Tori hasn't called him or even texted him. Al wanted to dial her number, but didn't dare. She made a decision and chose not him. So she didn't really love him. The man played this thought over and over in his head. However, 6 months of a happy relationship couldn't just disappear from his thoughts. They left an indelible mark. Al wanted to talk to the girl and sort out the situation. He even considered telling her that he lied about his financial situation. But then, Tori would have returned to him solely because of the money. Such a relationship would clearly have lost its passion and sincerity. Al began to frequent the cafe that he and Tori often went to when they were walking along the promenade together. He bought himself a coffee, sat down at a table and looked out the window. In his mind, he returned to the moments when they wandered along the shore holding hands. He remembered her smile, jokes, stories about work, and his soul became very heavy. Tori strongly sunk into the soul of a man, and she didn't want to leave from there. The rings of bells on the cafe door brought the man back to reality. Al glanced towards the entrance and froze. Tori entered the cafe. She smiled with some sadness, as if she didn't expect to see him and was not glad to meet him. But she sat down at Al's table anyway and greeted him. The man remarked, "Hi Tori." He had no idea what they could talk about. Only a week and a half had passed, and his soul went to his heels as soon as he saw her. And in that second, he was ready to confess everything and ask her to come back because he missed her. He went crazy without her. The girl started first. "How are you doing? I see that everything is fine with your business. I recently saw your interview on TV." Al opened his mouth, but closed it because the waiter came, and he could at least gather his thoughts a little to properly express what was on his soul. Tori ordered ice cream and coffee with cream, and the waiter left. Al looked at the girl. It was hard for him to even breathe, being next to her and realizing that she couldn't belong to him, and that all her love was feigned. And now she approached him, most likely because she saw his interview on TV. "Tori, I have to tell you something." Al hesitated to reveal his lies, although he wanted to tell her that she had failed the test. She whispered, "Speak." Al said and lowered his head. There was no bankruptcy. He had no idea where this conversation would lead, but he had to open his soul and tell her that she broke his heart and maybe he would feel better. "You decided to test me. I knew about it from the very beginning, even when you started talking to me then. Why do you think I decided to disappear from your life?" Al's eyes went wide. He felt restless in his soul, as if he had been circled around his finger or were trying to do it now. "Then why didn't you say it right away?" Tori pursed her lips, turned to look out the window and said, "Did I have to tell you something? Almost from the very beginning, I felt distrust on your part. When we first met, I felt so warm and good with you. I was sure that I had found the very man I could rely on, whom I could trust, and that it would be mutual. But it didn't last long. After meeting your parents, I felt pressured. It hasn't let go of me for a second since that day. You started acting like you were eyeing me, like you wanted to catch me right-handed, like some kind of thief. And after meeting your friends, you began to find fault with me for all sorts of trifles. Al, do you think I didn't see the face you gave me that pendant with?" Tori touched her fingers to the chain that hung around her neck, and then she unfastened the clasp. She took off the chain with the pendant and placed it in front of the man. "You were waiting for me to start reacting like those naive girls who are waiting for such a gift. But when they receive it, they begin to pretend that it's so unexpected. You and I are both adults. Why did you have to arrange this test for me? Why didn't you trust me? Why do you doubt me? Didn't you feel my sincerity and love?" Al had nothing to say. His temples throbbed and all the words were scattered in different directions. There was a void in his head. That's why Tori looked at him with such sadness then. She knew everything. She felt. And she didn't want to talk because she was in pain. The waiter brought Tori's order. She drank coffee and started eating ice cream, and Al didn't know what to say to her. He just sat, looked at the chain she took off her neck, and was silent, realizing that he himself had broken his love. "If you gave me a second chance, I would fix everything." That's the only thing Al could say. "Why would you need a second chance?" Tori took the money out of her purse and put it on the table. She rose to her feet and looked at the man. "You are too dependent on someone else's opinion, and I need a reliable person who will love me and trust me even if everyone around is against me. Unfortunately, people don't change at the snap of their fingers, and I don't believe that this will not happen again. Sorry, I have to run. I was glad to meet you, but that's all, and please don't try to find me, and better." Tori thought for a moment, sighed heavily, and added, "Don't try to bring me back, but reconsider your behavior and attitude to life. You can't be led by someone else's opinion all your life." Tori is gone. It was hard for her to be around Al, but she understood that his test and distrust would not allow them to be truly happy. She couldn't stay near him, and he just sat, looked after her, and couldn't move, because he actually screwed everything up and let go of the person who could replace the whole world for him. If this story touched your heart, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with others who might need to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new story. We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more